Krista, welcome to Growth Driven Entrepreneur. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Daryl. Thanks so much for having me today.
I'm looking forward to the conversation because we share this common philosophy around this four-letter word called lean. And we're not talking about being in the gym. We're not talking about dieting. We're not talking about keto. It's a completely different concept in the world of operational efficiency. So I'm excited to have you here. Why don't you, first of all, where are you joining us from?
I am based in not so sunny Connecticut this month.
Okay. A little bit cloudy over there now.
Yeah, we've had a rain spell, so it's good for getting work done because you definitely don't want to be outside.
Gotcha. You have created your company is called the Lean Out Method, or your program is called Lean Out Method. I know you've got multiple programs that you help entrepreneurs with, but why don't you take a second, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about Lean Out Method, and let's dive into some operational, tactical, strategic ways that we can help these entrepreneurs today.
Yeah, absolutely. I have been a business owner for many decades now. And one of the things that I learned really the hard way when I launched and ended up scaling my first business way quicker than I anticipated is most small businesses and entrepreneurs do not run lean businesses. By nature, we tend to make things pretty complex. We tend to make growth way more complex and way more work than it needs to be. And we don't typically really understand what it takes to scale in a way that's sustainable. And with my first business that I had scaled much more quickly than I was honestly really ready for, I ended up in a place where I almost put myself out of business. I was working around the clock. I was on the verge of burnout. I had accumulated massive amounts of debt. And I was in a place where I had to make the decision, could I keep this business or did I need to kind of accept a defeat and close it down? And it was in really doing that hard look at the business and where things were that I had the epiphany and the realization that while I had been a lean business consultant with all of these Fortune 50 clients, I was not applying those principles in my own business. So it took that realization to take those principles and look at how do they apply down to a small scaling business and
Mm.
how could I leverage that in at the time what was a jewelry business. And today I help people more in the online service-based space.
Wow. So let's broaden the conversation around lean, because in your background, you are. I'm gonna, for the audience who's listening, I just want to call out a couple of your credentials. So you're a scaled agile program consultant, SPC. You're a Kanban management professional, KMP, which we use Kanban in my world. You're Lean Six Sigma Green Belt, and there are a number of other things here. But let's talk a little bit about lean and agile. For me, I remember reading the book. Well, I guess I started thinking about lean business models because I once started a business from my grandmother's couch. I had $200 to my name. I was living out of two bags of clothes and I just didn't have a lot. So I had to figure out how to make the most with what I've got. I've got to start where I am. I can't look at what someone else in the office is doing. I can't look at what other businesses are doing. I've got to go with what I've got, my resources that I have, and make it work. But that was, and then I later came across the book, The Lean Startup by Eric, I forget, Rees, I forget how to pronounce his
I think
name.
it's Reese.
But let's dive into your journey into this concept of lean and agile, because it is, to your earlier point, we oftentimes, and especially today with digital, we can really make this more complicated than it needs to be.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I fell into lean completely by accident, as I think so many of us do. When I was in college, I was a fine art major. I always wanted to have my own creative business. And
Oh,
when I
wow.
came close to graduation, I thought to myself, if I'm going to run a business, maybe I should know a little something about business. I'm great at my craft, but what do I know about running a business? So I
Mm,
ended up switching majors. I graduated with an MIS degree, and I decided I was going to work for a couple of years to try to pay down the college loans while I figured out what I wanted to do and got
mhm,
my business going. And during that time, I had an opportunity to join this company, and two things happened. They needed me to start right away. And the only way I could start right away was to come in as a consultant. I knew nothing about consulting. I didn't even know what consulting was. I just knew and was excited that I had a job. So I said, of course, yes, I will take it. So it started my journey as a consultant. And the company that I was brought into was really big into lean manufacturing. And
Mm.
so I ended up stepping into, quite by accident, with this thing that I thought was just a hold me over till I figured out what I really wanted to do job, that ended up reshaping what I have done for the past 23 years of my life.
That's
And I
hilarious.
found that I just loved lean so much. It just made so much sense to me. The
Hmm.
idea of, if we're going to do something, we want to make sure that we are getting the maximum value out of it, in that we are wasting the least amount of time, money, and energy, right? How do we maximize what we're doing so we're getting the best possible results, the best possible fulfillment, the best possible everything, and we're minimizing all the things that take away from that? It just made so much logical sense to me. And I saw that apply to really every facet of what we do in our lives, even outside of our business, beyond just the way that lean is traditionally used in big companies.
Yeah, it's so interesting, right? I mean, we look at big companies and we see what they do, and a lot of times us as small business owners, and just for the definition of the types of customers that you serve, and even in my market, I mean, you're looking at companies that are established. They've been around 3 to 5 years or more. They are already doing a 500,000 or more, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, 5 million. They're looking to scale. This is not definitely startup mentality as when I was living on my grandmother's couch. Um, but it is interesting. It seems like the more successful we get, and I can think very clearly about a customer in my world in past years who went from a 500,000 to 1.1 to 1.8 to 2.3. And the year that they went to 2.3, they thought the world was a failure because they didn't grow at the same percentage. And what was interesting was they expanded so rapidly and added all sorts of complexity to the business model. We were the agency of record, and it was a tough set of conversations over that last year and then the following year. But for you, you were in this Fortune 50 world for a while, and we can see a lot of bloat in some of those companies, right? When profits are big, when revenue's tall. But our customer, 500,000 and up, we aren't big yet. It seems like a good chunk of change, but it's not big, and it's easy for us to fall into this area of complexity. Let me ask you this: when you come into a company, that what are the what are one or two of the more common areas that you see that they've added complexity or layers that are not even serving them, but they don't know it? I'd love for you to share a couple of those.
Oh yeah, there's a few that are top of mind for sure, that I see almost with every client that I work with. The one is their offer suite. What happens over time is we keep adding different things, right? One of the beauties of the entrepreneurial mindset and approach is the ability to experiment and try new things. We're
Mm.
really great at pursuing new ideas and saying yes to things. We're not really great at saying no and leaning out or cutting those things when we
Preach,
need to.
preach, keep preaching.
So, if you really think about what you do in your business, the reality is, if you think of the 80/20 rule, there's probably 20% of your offers that you have your ideal client that invests pretty readily and pretty easily in that offer. They end up bringing in the most profit for the business. It provides the most value to the client. It provides the most fulfillment to you. If you really look at your offers, you might have 20, 30. I've seen clients that have even more than that in an offer perspective. And it's usually
What?
only a couple core offers that you really need to
Hmm.
scale. And the reality is, if you laser focus in on your top performing things and just try to amplify your results with those, you actually end up not only bringing in way more revenue than you would think you would want to, but you typically will bring in a whole lot more profit as well, because
Hmm.
you're getting rid of all of the noise and complexity and distraction that you have by trying to sell so many different things. And it
Hmm.
seems counterintuitive. People get really scared to let go of something, or to disappoint clients, or to disappoint people who haven't yet invested in that offer that they know want it. But the reality is, when you make that change, you not only simplify the business, but you make it a lot easier to deliver a great client experience, and you make your business a whole lot more profitable at the same time. So offers is one, but that's definitely not the only one.
Before you go to the number two, I just want to amplify a couple things you said there because you said it two times. You're not just making more money, but you're making more profit, and profit is all that matters when you're the entrepreneur, right? Top line revenue. A lot of people shout about it, they scream about it, they talk about their chart going up and to the right. When you get into the weeds, I was thinking about a client of mine who I coach, and the revenue's growing. It looks pretty good. It's kind of up and to the right, and we dug in a little bit to figure out that, but there's not enough money there for you, and there's not enough money there to grow and advertise and to, so it looked good because of the blood, the sweat, the tears, the hustle and grind mentality. But there's nothing scalable in the model, right? So you can have great top line, but you don't have anything scalable. The second thing you said that I thought was interesting is this 80-20 rule, right? We are easy to say yes, especially today in a digital world, right? I mean, yes to Facebook ads, yes to Instagram, yes to Reels, yes to TikTok, yes to all of the things, right? The new landing page suite, the whatever it may be. And the true power of success is no. It's staying really crystal clear and focused on what will the road look like for us to get there, and being mindful of the new things that come along, but having sort of a barrier. I like to call it a filter by which something can pass through into your world. Like, okay, it's here. Chat GPT, for example. Chat GPT pops on the scene, and I kind of have a filtering rule. If 3 to 5 of my closest friends who I respect in business don't tell me about the thing, then I'm not paying attention to the thing, right? I'm not going to be the pioneer. But if 3 or 4 or 5 of my friends tend to say, hey, you need to take a look at this. Have you seen this? Have you heard of this? Did you hear about da, da, da? That happened 4 or 5 times during the second 2 weeks of December of 2022. And I was like, huh, this must be a thing. So I have a filtering process. Otherwise, no. It's a muscle that you have to build. Let's go to number 2. What's that second big area that you see?
Yeah, I'm going to lump 2 and 3 together and kind of talk about them interchangeably because I think they
Okay.
do go together. And it's lack of systems and too much or not the right team. And I think that
Mm,
that happens quite often from a complexity perspective because as we're starting to really get traction in our business, as we're starting to grow and bring on team members to support us, a lot of what we end up doing is we bring in people for 3 hours here, 5 hours there, a little bit of time here,
mm,
usually a little scared to commit to the full time employees. And what
mhm,
you don't always realize is you're basically putting yourself at the center of the hub in the team where you're the only one who holds the vision and holds the strategy, and you've got to tell everyone else individually what to do, answer all their questions, make all the decisions, check what they're doing, fix what they're doing when it's not working. And you're actually putting more work on yourself, and you're
yeah,
not really alleviating much. You're adding more complexity in trying to get things done. And when
mm,
you couple that with not really having clear systems or really understanding and being able to communicate what success looks and what your specific criteria is like for how you want things done and the results that you're looking to achieve, you're not really setting those people up for success, which puts more dependent on you, adds more complexity. So
mm,
I'm a really big believer in having a lean dream team. You really want to have people who are 20 to 40 hours dedicated to your business. You want to build a high performing team culture where people take accountability and ownership over the outcomes. They understand why they're doing what they're doing and they take the initiative to go out and figure out how to get it done and to work together instead of everything being dependent on you. And that's way harder to do if you have small little bits of a lot of people. You're better off with a lot of a few people and
mm.
solid systems and processes to be able to support them to be effective. When you've
Wow.
got that in place, it really minimizes the complexity. And as a side benefit, it allows you as the CEO to be able to focus more on what you want to be working on, your zone of genius, the things that fuel you, as opposed to constantly putting out fires and answering questions and making decisions and getting involved in the stuff that you hired other people to lead.
Wow. Whew, Krista, my goodness. We could be here for 3 hours trying to unpack. I got to dive in on a couple big things. Number one, and I'm going to come back and really, I want to unpack both the systems as well as team, because those two topics are a passion for me. Talk a lot about them. I talk about superstar DNA and how you build teams and my superstar team building concept. And then superstar systems, which is just, again, but I want to come back to those and dig a little deeper for sure. But in your work, now that you're working with online entrepreneurs, when you're meeting with them, because most people, in my opinion, I want your opinion, most entrepreneurs are not detail oriented. They're not systems engineers. They're not good with the details and the minutia. How do you talk? First of all, what is your percentage breakdown? How many people get what you just said and are engaged during that process versus the entrepreneur who you work with who is sort of the cloud. We talked about it offline. They live in the vision, but they can't get down to the nitty gritty. What's the breakdown of entrepreneurs that you see percentage wise when you're starting to work with them?
Yeah, I mean, the majority of entrepreneurs who I work with, I'd say probably 80 to 90% are true visionary CEOs. They
Okay.
are visionaries by nature. But when you're a solopreneur in your business, you have no choice but
Right.
to also be the person who does the detail work, which you probably hate. You're probably not very good at. It frustrates you, it drains you, it takes you away from doing the things that you really want to do.
Hmm.
And I think one of the mistakes people make when they hire is they just want so badly to get back to the visionary work that they want
And
to be
just
doing that they
they just
just
want to punt
hire
it.
anybody and they're like, would you please just go take care of all of the detail stuff so I don't need to?
Yep.
And as much as we want it to, it doesn't really work really well
No,
that
no,
way
no,
when
no,
that's
no.
the approach.
You're so you're I call it I did it in 2002. I hired a team member during that business. I was in my second year. I was growing pretty quickly. I hired this first time I hired this kid. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. I hired a college kid because it's like cheapest. Like I did every mistake you probably said. Cheapest. I didn't have room for full time. At least I didn't think so. I hired this kid. It wasn't a kid's fault. And I just said, "Hey, help me out." And he didn't know to ask the right question, which was help you do what? So that didn't work. 3 times later, we figured it out. I hired a business coach. But to your point, I like to say entrepreneurs that are visionaries, they like to punt everything they don't like to do. They like to punt anything that it's not part of their natural DNA. I call it superstar DNA, definite natural ability. How do you help? First of all, how do you know what the superstar DNA or the gift that the entrepreneur brings to the business? Because there are some business owners who are more like the technician, the operational guru, the genius, and maybe they should be actually hiring and building the marketing and sales team while they actually run the operational side of the business. How do you ascertain what that entrepreneur's skill set is?
Yeah, it's true. I do have a couple clients like that. And I think when you are that person, that's amazing. That's wonderful. But you do need that person who's going to challenge you from a strategy perspective because you're typically not ever thinking big enough or thinking strategically enough,
Mm,
which is why those clients end up hiring me and working with me
mm,
frequently because they
mm,
recognize it. And so it's honestly really pretty easy to tell when you're talking to somebody. And even somebody who is really squarely in the visionary camp, they typically are a really good technician at their craft. So there's still some part of both, but people tend to be more wired for the detail and for the doing and the running, or the ideating and the creating.
mm,
And so I think it's easy to tell when you're working with somebody. And I tend to ask a lot of leading questions. One of the very first things that I do with all of my clients is something I call your rich, fulfilled life blueprint. Because why are we doing what we're doing overall? Like, yes, we want business success. Yes, we have financial goals. Yes, we have these different achievement goals. But at the end of the day, it's to support something that we personally want. And
mm.
I call that your rich, fulfilled life. So we
I
always
love
start
that.
with that rich, fulfilled life blueprint and we get clear on what is important to you. What actually matters? What are the things that fuel you and that you could do all day long and would wish you could do all day long? And what are the things that drain you? You would give anything to be able to hand them off to somebody else and actually be able to trust that they will get them done and get them done well. And so we go through and really define all of that. And then that becomes input to the next level vision for the business. And where do you see the business? Where do you see yourself in your role in the business? And where do you see your clients of tomorrow? And pulling that all together into the backbone of what becomes the business model, the offer suite, everything that gets done in the business. So we always start there. I'm a big believer of start with the end in mind, reverse engineer
Hmm.
your results. But you
100%.
can suss it out pretty quickly through conversations with people as they start to talk about what really matters most to them and what fuels them versus what drains them.
You ended it on a perfect note. What fuels them versus what drains them. And oftentimes early, even if you're still in that earlier stage, you still will have to do the things that drain you. You just do. And I think a lot of times entrepreneurs they get mistaken and they meet someone like you. They get into their rich fulfilled life. I don't know if I said that right, but and they look at their next level business vision and then they want to live there, but they've got to still deal with the reality of today. I still in my this is my after we're 12th year, 12 and a half years now in the digital marketing agency, there's still some things I do in the agency that I don't care for. Just never once when they're on my calendar am I excited about to see them. Or if I get a pop up in my project management, they're just not my favorite thing to do. But I know how to do them, and I've got to do them because it's required. And the reality is, what we have to do is what you said, which is get clear on those items that matter. What matters in your life? What matters for your business? What matters in types of customers you want to serve? And then from there, and that was the first exercise I remember doing roughly 21 years ago with my first business coach. It was amazing. She literally said, for the next 90 days, don't sell anything on purpose. She she like literally turn off the marketing engine, because it's like pushing on the accelerator and the brake at the same time. You're good at acquiring customers, but you're not good at the back end of this thing. And you're getting it done because you're working 6 to 6, taking lunch or taking dinner and then going back to work from 8 to 12. How long do you want that to continue? That was kind of the wake up call. So I think that's where, so I probably would have been a good customer of yours back then. So if I'd have found you back then, I might have hired you. When you come into companies, well, first of all, when did you start your first business?
I started my first business in 2004. However, I did
2000.
lead my first two businesses in 1992. So,
Whoa. Okay. So you were early into management and leadership, and then
oh
you
yeah,
went out on your own. What pushed you out on your own, or what was the line in the sand moment for you that made you start your own business?
I always wanted to do my own thing. I've just always been very entrepreneurial, and it's interesting. Being a systems thinker and being somebody who helps people create systems. I do that because I naturally push against systems. I'm not somebody who by nature loves systems. I see systems that are broken and that are complex and that don't make sense. And
Hmm.
so I want to simplify them. I want to help people look at, here's this vision that you have. Here's where you currently are. You literally can't get to where you want to go from where you are. You have no bridge between the two. Let's
Oh,
build the system that's going to get you there.
oh,
And I find that so many systems in companies that I was working for were very broken. I just wanted to create my own system to be able to achieve what I wanted to and then be able to help other people be able to do the same.
yeah. So we talk about systems. Let's break down a couple of systems. So systems can mean a lot of things to a lot of people, and they can be big systems or little systems. Like, for example, I think your personal daily routine is a system. I have
Mhm.
a daily routine for my personal life. It's a system. I have a time period when I'm going to check email. I have a time period when I'm not going to check email. I have a time period when I'm going to work out. I have a personal time system. So from those types of microsystems to the big ones, but talk about the systems that you're referring to, and where can someone listening to this begin to think, whether it's this grandiose chasm that you've got to kind of carry them across from one cliff to the next cliff, and there's no way to go except down without you. But where can someone start thinking about systems today? Because I think sometimes we overcomplicate even what a system is.
Oh, we do. And people mistake the word system for SOP, which in my mind are two different
Mm,
things. SOP is a
yes.
level of system,
Yes.
but SOP is not that's not the definition of a system. So
I
when I
understand.
look
Yeah.
at systems, I look at four different levels of system. Your top level of system is what I call your strategic systems for scale. And that is your business itself is a system. Your business is an entire ecosystem. Your business model is a system. How you market and sell is a system. How you deliver your products and service and offer is a system. How you hire and onboard and offboard team and even clients is a system. So there's a lot of different systems that you have. But when I look at that top level, your strategic system for scale, that's more, if you were to visually look at it, it's at the 10,000 foot level. It's more workflow style where you look at the core pieces of what are needed and really the interconnectivity of what you're doing in your business. Below that is more of a summary system, then a subsystem, then and only then do we get down to the detailed systems and SOPs. So I always like to use podcasting as an example. And so podcasting is a piece of a strategic system. right?
Hmm.
Why do you podcast? Why are you, a guest on a podcast? Why do you have your own podcast? Well, it's typically to raise awareness of your brand or your offers and to bring in new clients. And so it's one of the pieces within your strategic system in how you achieve the outcome that you're trying to in your business of acquiring new high quality clients. From there, you'd break that down to the summary of what are the major things that you do. Well, if you're producing a podcast, you've got to come up with the content, you've got to record and create the content, you've got to edit and publish that content, and then you've got to promote and share that content. From there, you break it down even further into the details. And then eventually you get into what people think of as a typical SOP of the
Hmm.
very specific instructions. Here's how you upload the episode. Here's the format of the title. Here's what the description is like. And so there's
Yep.
a lot of layers between the detailed SOP and the overarching system. And to me, where a lot of people miss systems in their business is at that top most strategic level. What are the things that you do to bring in revenue in your business, to generate profit, and to deliver value to your clients? That's the level that you want your clarity around. And then all of your other systems are in support of that.
Wow. Yeah. I love the way you broke down the podcast example. I mean, I know some listening here are not running a podcast or been a guest on a podcast, but the reality is you're right. If I heard you right, just to kind of, and correct me if I'm wrong, the person who's using a podcast to grow their brand, elevate their awareness, expand their thought leadership in the marketplace, that's a system inside of a marketing system, right? It's part of that marketing system, but that marketing system sits more up towards
Mm-hmm.
that strategic level that you're talking about. And then you go and level down into the actual execution of it, but it's not an SOP yet because there's a framework now of, okay, well, we've got to create the content, we've got to create the topics, we got to create the show, we got to record, we got to edit, we got to publish, we got to share. And then beneath that are all sorts of what we would typically call tactical SOPs that either we follow or someone else follows. So I think that was a very good breakdown of that. I call it SOPs are like the ingredients that go into the food. I'm a cook, so I like to go back to the kitchen. Those are just the ingredients, right? The tactical SOP, they're just the ingredients. That's the eggs and the flour that goes in the cake, the salt, the baking soda, baking powder, whatever. And people like to just get the ingredients, right? They want to download a template or a checklist and think that that's a system. That's not a system. You started down here at the ingredients level. Where are you going with the process? So I love that breakdown. So I want to ask this question, and that is, we talk about simplifying business models that are already complex. Are you finding more complexity related to the new technologies of the world, or are you finding more complexity with staff hiring more people than you actually need who are doing less of what you think they should be doing? Is it on the HR side of it? Is it on the tech side of it? Is it a lack complexity of, yeah, as you said earlier, maybe too many offers, too many services, they're spread thin in what they are trying to serve the market with? Where does the biggest level of complexity lie in most cases?
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly a little bit of all of those things, but it's because one causes another. If you've got too many offers, or
Mm,
even if you don't have too many offers, but you're subscribing to this really complex, multi step, 27-step funnel with order bumps and this, and like just all of these things that people do that make something so simple. So
right.
complex. Instead of, hey, here's this problem that you have. I have a great solution for you to solve this problem. Here's how I've helped other people solve this problem. Does it align for you? Instead of approaching something in a really simple way, there's all of these, we've got to do this and we've got to add this level in, and then we've got to add this bump in, and then we've got to do this downsell over here and this cross sell over here. And it ends up being just such a complex thing that requires multiple tools and multiple technologies. They need to talk to one another. They don't integrate with one another. You need something that's going to connect them to one another. You end up needing team to manage each piece of that. The more complexity you add in, the more customer service requests you're going to get because people get confused. And I thought I was going to get this, and what's this? And now all of a
Mhm.
sudden you have more team. And so if you just keep a really simple, really high value,
Yeah.
high profit offer suite that aligns with the ideal client that you want to work with and the ideal problem that you are positioned to solve. And you put a really great system in place to bring in leads and to actually market and sell and convert. You don't need a whole lot of all that other complexity. But by nature,
All
so
that
much of what's
jazz.
taught is, well, you got to do this and you've got to add
Yep.
all these things. And that leads to the complexity in all the other areas.
Oh my geez. Yeah. Sorry, funnel hackers. Sorry, she just destroyed you. She just destroyed you in a big way. She didn't call you out, but I'm going to. I'm so sorry. Shout out to Brunson and the crew. Ain't mad at you. Love your products. But it ain't all that serious. Everybody
There
don't
is a
need that.
simpler way. It's choose your
Everybody don't need
path,
that.
but
Everybody
no,
don't
you're
need
not
that.
choosing simple if you go that way.
100%. 100%. Yeah. So for those that are not familiar with what we're talking about when I use the phrase funnel hacker, it's the reality is companies, and again, this is not to take away from the technology to make things more efficient and streamlined, but some of those technologies are really only for businesses that have really, they've got great leverage, they've got great scale, they've got great momentum, they've got great team, and they can handle all of those moving pieces. I can't tell you the number of companies or CEOs or business owner founders who have come to my world asking for help. And unfortunately, we're not here to pick on names, but and they've always told me, oh, I got ClickFunnels, but it's just not working. And I'm like, it's not ClickFunnels' fault. It's not the software. Just buying the software is easy. Like as is buying HubSpot, that's easy. As is buying ActiveCampaign or ConvertKit or SamCart or ThriveCart or Kajabi or Thinkific. The software isn't the problem. It's what you choose to do with it. And you can either do the most simple or the most complex. What's the fastest path to an outcome? And I think that's what you're talking about. And it's funny because today, when I think about all of the things we could do in digital, and you and I are friends, Krista, so you know kind of a theory that I have about when we're trying to move to our next level, we should literally think about who's the one person that we should be talking to. And where's that one person likely to be hanging out online? And what's the one way we want to get in front of them? And then what's the one thing, conversion path that we want to use? I have a very simple framework on this. And it's exactly what you're saying. No, we don't have to be on Twitter and Instagram and Pinterest and YouTube and Shorts and Reels and TikTok and Linked and Live and we don't need to do all of that. I'm having a meeting today with a $7 million company, and they haven't done online. They've literally gotten there without the internet. Congratulations to them. But their leadership, they don't even know what they don't know. They don't know what they don't know. So I have to baby step them in, but I can inevitably guarantee you there can be three leaders in the room, and I guarantee you they're all going to be on a different page about what it's going to take. Someone's going to say we need to build a new website. Someone's going to say we need to be doing LinkedIn. I can already hear the conversation, but I've been doing this a long time. But the reality is we have to start with, to your point, what is the vision for where we're going? So I love that. I love that. You have a process when you first walk into a company, or you have a program that you recommend, or you start to go into a company and start to figure out where things are being wasted. And I know offline we were joking. I call it your waste management system, but we're not talking about trash, people, and we're not talking about body parts on your waste. We're talking about where companies are wasting money. I know you've got a guide that you give people, and kind of a place where you walk them through and try to figure out where there's some opportunities. But why don't we share a couple of them with the audience here, and then let them know where they can find that resource for you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the reality is that there's a lot of waste in businesses. And I've gone through and really looked at your coaching, your consulting, your expert, your service based players in the online space, and what are the 10 most common areas of waste for our business types in particular. And we've
Mm.
talked a lot already today about unnecessary complexity. That is absolutely the biggest one. And I could probably put a series of 100 sub bullets underneath that one alone. But that being said, it's not the only one. There are 9 other really major areas as well. One of those is incomplete work. And if you think about visionaries being the visionary, the creator, the ideator, right? Visionaries love to come up with and start new things. Visionary sweet spot and happy place is not always implementing, finishing, and continuing to run and deliver those things. So, by the nature of visionary leadership, by the nature of just the way that small business and entrepreneurship is so dynamic and fast moving and fast changing, a lot of times we don't complete the things that we start.
Mm.
And that has a really big impact on our business and our profits and our time.
And our
Unneeded
health.
work and
And our
our,
health.
absolutely
Our mental health,
100%.
because yeah, open loops, leave that for the storytellers who write great screenplays and movies and television shows. You do not want open loops in your business. That's the way I describe it. It's a drain on your mental energy because you're
Mhm.
jumping all over the place. I just wanted to throw that in there as a great point.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad that you said that because I find too, like there's that meme or that joke about, like there's 18 tabs open in my brain and the music's playing and I don't know where it's coming from. There's something like that. But incomplete things are the open tabs in your brain that cause you to not sleep, to not be able to focus, to end up really constantly being in that place of, I feel like I'm forgetting something or feeling bad that you're not doing what you've committed to doing. So I do think it's important to be able to close the loops, close the tabs, whatever you call it, and actually
Right.
finish what you start. Um, which a lot of times means you shouldn't say yes to everything that you start in the first place, which is the next one, which is spending time on unneeded work. And helping people get clear on what is needed and what isn't is something that I
Oh,
absolutely love to do because it can be
oh.
so easy to feel like you need to do everything. In the
Mm,
example you gave, that you need to be on TikTok and LinkedIn and Reels and all of the places. Well, how do you know which one is actually going to be the one that takes you closer to the vision and goals that you have, and which one is just a bright, shiny object or distraction right now? Might change over time, but right now. And then I'll wrap things up with new versus optimization. So one of the fastest ways to get better results in your business is to optimize what's already working. Look for ways to get better results. If you can just increase your conversion rate by even a percentage or two, you will bring in more revenue instead of creating an entire new program that you need a whole team and a whole system and a whole multi-month process to go off and launch and then deliver afterwards. And so often, because entrepreneurs are visionaries, I call it visionary-itis, love creating new things, love doing new things, we end up focusing there. But if instead you're trying to optimize what's working and going all in on improving what you already have, you will typically see the results that you want without a whole lot of the complexity and overwork that goes along with it.
that was probably, I mean, first of all, you have dropped bomb nugget after bomb nugget. That last one is big, right? In my world, I just had a conversation with a client, and the head of marketing is in this meeting, and the owner is not in the meeting. The CEO of the company is not in the meeting, never in the meeting actually, and but the owner now wants to build a brand new website, and so it's so funny you said that. Fortunately, the senior executive, who's not the CEO, said, "I think we should be optimizing, not building new." So I'm glad he was willing to challenge the conversation. So your point is so on. It's so relevant. The time that it takes to build something new of any kind is going to cost you far more. In my experience. In my experience. By the way, I've done it wrong plenty. I've done new plenty of times. I've done new when it shouldn't have been new. I've been the person who's opened up too many loops. That's where I got it from. um, and so it's so important when you're thinking about, every decision we make is either going to add complexity or remove as it relates to our end goal, right? And that's what I hear you saying. It's like, let's get clear about what we're trying to do. And I think that, to your point, nobody wants to sign up for a clarity session. No one wants to sign up for for a discussion. At least they don't think that they need it. They actually think they need the tactical execution. They actually think that they just want to hit the accelerator pedal, but yet they don't know how the car was built and how it's designed to be driven, right? And a lot of times when you say you want to grow and scale your business, you actually don't even know what it means, right? What it means is you've gotten to a place where you're not comfortable anymore and you want to go to the next level, but you don't know what it looks like to go from a $500,000 business to a $2 million business because you haven't done it before. You don't realize all the moving parts. And so having someone on your team like Krista is going to help with that clarity. I get brought in and it's the same thing. I never sell clarity. I don't sell clarity, but we can't start until we're clear. They sign up for all these other things, but we're going to spend 6 weeks and get clear. And that's the way it goes. Krista, I can tell from your systematic thought process. People need someone like you in the corner. You operate also, not just do you do online programs, but you operate as a fractional COO. Is that right? In some
Yep, I call
cases?
myself a CISO, Chief Strategy and Operating Officer, because I'm that weird bridge
Hmm,
between marketing and operations, but from an operations lens. So
gotcha.
operationalizing your marketing while also operationalizing your back end of your business.
I love that. So I think if you're listening to this right now and right, like there's a lot of things moving right now. The world, the economy, the online space is changing. And if you're operating this without someone like Krista in your corner, it is a challenge. It is going to be a challenge for you, largely because you may not be wired to do what she does. You might not be wired with lean and agile philosophy and being able to have an eye for waste because you're a visionary like me. I mean, I have bright shiny object syndrome, just like the best of them. I've just worked on the muscle to sort of put that filter up that helps me stay a little bit more on the straight and narrow path. Plus, I have some accountability in my world as well. Krista, how can people get in touch with you? By the way, you have a podcast that you probably want them to check out too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. If you love this conversation, there's a whole lot more over at leanoutpodcast.com. My show is called Lean Out Your Business, and my website is Lean Out Method. When you're there, you can find all the things. Please do reach out if you have any questions. I'm always happy to help. You can say that you heard me on this show. And if you want to grab that guide that we were talking about of the top 10 areas of waste, that's at leanoutmethod.com/waste, which you'll also find right on the homepage of my website.
Awesome. Krista, I'm sure I'll have you back on the show. We're collaborating on some outside projects, so I'm looking forward to our continued collaboration there. Thank you for taking time to be on the show today. Any last parting thoughts for that person who feels a little bit overwhelmed, over complex? What would the one piece of advice be that you give them today?
Yeah, absolutely. So typically, if you're overwhelmed, things feel really complex, you're probably spending on time on things that you don't need to. So I'm going to give you a super quick little framework that you can use. Take the things that you're doing in your business, whether it's your activities or your offers, and run it through a process I call CHUCK. Stands for cut, hold, change, and keep. Just take a moment and look at each thing and say, is this something I need to be doing at all? Can it be cut? If you're not sure, put it in the hold category. Is it something you want to keep and it's working perfectly as is? Or is it something you want to keep, but you know you can get better results from and you want to change, which is where your optimizations come in? That category is your gold to be able to get better results from what you're already doing. But make sure you put some things in the cut and the hold category. You can spend about 30 minutes on this and actually get yourself back hours in your week. So,
Hmm.
super simple activity, cut, hold, change, keep. But that is one that my clients use all the time to get time back and make sure they're focused on the right things.
Holy smoke. If you haven't gotten value out of today's show, you ain't been listening very long. And it doesn't matter really where you are, right? If you're just getting started, these are going to apply, although at smaller levels. If you're bigger than this, you're going to need somebody like Krista on your team. And I would encourage you to get out. We'll link up all of her connections. Lean Out Podcast was, I don't want to call out all the URLs, but we'll link them all up in the description wherever you're listening to this show right now. So again, thank you, Krista, for being on the show. Thank you for helping entrepreneurs do the thing that they do to serve the world, serve the community, serve their customers, and help them grow and live lives that they'd hope for when they started this entrepreneurial journey. It's not as easy as a lot of people think on Instagram posts and reels and all these things that people are flashing around today's world. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, my friend, thank you for listening. And if you are not a part of the Growth Driven Entrepreneurs community, just head over to growthdrivenentrepreneur.com. Get yourself signed up. It is our free community where we help you every single month market, grow, and scale your business. That's what we do here. My name is Daryl Evans. If this is your first time here, I want to thank you for spending some time with us. Hit the follow or subscribe button wherever you're listening so that you never miss another episode. I'll see you again next time. Take care. Hit the subscribe button so you can become a part of the MindShift community. We'll help you shift your mind so you can shift your results.